Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mike here at Game From Scratch and some other game engine news for today, and this one is about Godot and not the Unity Bonfire. This one, Godot Engine just made an announcement. It actually sounds probably bigger than it is at first glance, but let's go ahead and jump in. This is the Godot Engine Twitter feed, and the news announcement is right here. We are excited to introduce a major improvement in funding the development efforts of the Godot Engine, the Godot Development Fund. Help us secure stable funding and ensure the longevity of the project. Now, this is accumulation of something that happened a little while back, specifically this announcement. They transitioned from the SFC to the Godot Foundation. Basically, instead of the Software Freedom Confederacy, Conservatory, one of those two things, being the parent company, Godot is now running its own foundation, and this is going to lead to a change in the way that financing works. And this really, at the end of the day, just changes the way that they're getting their funding. So they have now, this is from the Godot blog, there is the brand new development fund, so they're excited to introduce a major improvement in the funding and development efforts of the Godot engine, the Godot Development Fund. The goal for the Development Fund is to create a direct way for everyone to help us secure stable funding and ensure the longevity of the project. Development Fund was soft launched in July, already welcomed a lot of new and old sponsors, and we need to take to the next level to sustain the current development team pace and increase it with new hires. So reducing platform fees, amplifying impact. So it's going to make use of the Godot project more sustainable and independent. New platform allows us to significantly reduce platform fees, and as a nonprofit, they don't charge VAT, which is the European value-added tax, on donations, unlike a platform like Patreon. Also, to keep in mind that Patreon takes a cut of every donation you make there as well. So your contributions will go directly to the development team. They're not going to have to pay VAT on those contributions. So ultimately, it will mean that they're getting 20, 30, 40% more, and people don't actually have to donate any different amount of money. At least that's how it would apply to Europeans, where the VAT is, generally in the 20 to 30% range. And then the Patreon cut is like 5 or 10%. I don't remember it offhand. So if you're currently donating through Patreon, which I still think they will appreciate that, they would rather that you switched over to the Godot Development Fund, where they will actually get more of the money. So it doesn't cost you anything different, and they get more money. So support of the community is what keeps making it possible to reach new heights. With you, we can achieve even more. Every donation, no matter the size, helps us immensely. With your help, we can hire more developers, create high-quality demos, pay for hosting services, infrastructure, and make the best possible Godot engine. The more funds we have, the more we can give back to you and the entire game dev community. Future enhancements. So while this is good, fully functioning starting point for the platform, we will keep improving the development fund. In the future, the platform will give you automated rewards like special Discord roles. That's something that Patreon actually does now. So my patrons, for example, have access to a special channel within the Game From Scratch Discord server, and you'll be able to showcase your contributions next level to your username on their main platform. And basically, they're in control. There's nobody else. SFC isn't in the middle. Patreon isn't in the middle. They can't get cut off, etc. So basically, it's just Godot is now handling this stuff directly. So this is it. If you go to the development fund, this is what it looks like. They've got 25,000 euro per month from 438 members and 9 sponsors. They have multiple different levels here, so from €5 a month up to, if you have to ask, you can't afford it tier. So yeah, you've got a number of different options for supporting it. If you're commercially making some money off of it, it could be a good way to help make sure that Godot, because Godot has a pretty active development team, and this helps for paying for it. A Blender Foundation does something very similar with their funding. This is just sort of eliminating the middleman, the layers like the SFC that were previously administrating these things, and Patreon, which was basically taking their cut and charging VAT, getting rid of that and handling it themselves directly. You may be wondering, and this is a really common thing. For example, here you can see that W4 Games is a platinum sponsor. You might know, okay, what exactly is W4 Games? Well, this is a company that was launched by a number of the core Godot developers. And people say, well, you've got millions of dollars from investment people here. Well, that's ultimately to create commercial ecosystems around Godot, specifically for supporting platforms, new like console development and that kind of stuff. And so it is definitely a separate organization. It is separate funding. So a lot of of the funding here is actually coming from venture capitalists. It's a completely different thing, but they do in turn give money back to the Godot Foundation, and they're also paying the salary of people that contribute to the Godot Foundation. So in an indirect way, W4 Games does actually kick money back towards the Godot, and you can actually see other companies as well, like Ramattack, which is another company founded by a Godot founder. They're in here as well. But yeah, so even though there are multiple funding sources for Godot these days, the direct community support of stuff is just like Blender. Blender gets support from a number of vendors around it, and there are commercial spin-offs that work with Blender, but Blender ultimately mostly receives its fund from the community, and this helps them enable to hire full-time developers, and that is what Godot is doing as well. So ultimately, at the end of the day, this thing is really just them consolidating their funding into a more efficient form. It doesn't really change anything from the end user, other than more of your money gets to the Godot Foundation if you donate. So if you want to help support the Godot game engine's future, this is the best way to do so going forward. I do believe they are going to keep the Patreon open, so let me know what you think. Comments down below. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye.